So, welcome back to Saturday Sermons, guys. And today, I got this idea randomly. Like, Saturday sermon ideas will hit me out of nowhere. Like, sometimes, I'll ask God for an idea throughout the whole week, and I won't get the idea until, like, Friday nights and stuff. So this happened again this time. Last night, me and my brother were doing our studies. We're in, like, First Chronicles. And for the last, whole 8 chapters we've been reading, I've been saying names. Like historical names of people and all the tribes and stuff, and it's just funny because I'm going through them. It's like, who was the son of blank blank blank, who was the son of blank, and I'll get my words all mixed up and stuff. So, and my little brother said something along the lines of how he used to and I used to do the same thing, where we'd read these books and we kind of just thought it was boring. We'd be going through trying to get through all the funky sounding names that don't come out of our mouths right and stuff. But that gave me the idea. I was like, because then we were like, what, now we like it, now we find it interesting, basically. And it made me think of how the Bible, some people don't enjoy reading their Bibles. And a lot of people always are wondering, how do I learn to actually enjoy reading the Bible? And it might not just be that part, it can just be any parts of the Bible if people want to read it, but they don't want to, type of thing. So, kind of like with the name chapters, we used to kind of just want to get past those and get to the stories, and we don't want to read all the history of who had who, but see how you can change, because now we think it's interesting. That's what people were named back then, And so everything in the Bible has a purpose, and we might not always know that purpose, but God wouldn't just put random things in the Bible with no reason. Why would he do that? Everything he does is for a reason, and as humans we might not know what that reason is. But I've had this deep thought before in years past, where I feel like even things that seem meaningless to us or unimportant, maybe they aren't meant for huge moments, but maybe they're meant for small things in life that could turn into memories, kind of thing, if you get what I'm saying. It's somewhere, I've thought this for years, but it made me think of it again from last night, because those names in the Bible, it could have just been there for other reasons that I'm not thinking of, but for one reason I can think of is just for this, for this sermon, for me to talk about this, or for that moment where my brother says to me, hey, we used to read this, and I used to not like it, and now I do, type of thing, and then we laugh together, and it's a little memory. It could have been for that, because God genuinely cares about the little details in life, and that's what makes up life, is every little moment. It's not always going to be one big milestone, and then one big milestone, another one. It's always going with little things in between. And I know our brains can't grasp all of that sometimes in life, but God sees the bigger picture, and I just think that's kind of cool and kind of sweet of God to do that. And that could be with anything, but I think for us to read the Bible, that we have to grow closer to God and actually understand what the Bible is for. Because let me get my thoughts together for a second, because there's something I'm trying to say through this. Basically, now that I've grown closer to God, I don't take the word for granted, type of thing, and I think it makes us just appreciate, God wrote us this book through the Spirit, and that's crazy when you think about it, and how the book is life. The Bible actually is life, if that makes sense. It's too much for us to comprehend, but it's actually that powerful. And God gave us this word, and yet we just leave it on a shelf half the time to get dusty and don't want to read it and stuff. But it's we're taking it for granted, because that is the essence of life. We can learn so much from the Bible and relate it to us now, because I can look at the Bible and I'll every day, it's God knows what I need exactly. Flip the right thing, or my chapter happens to be something that has the slightest little detail in it. Sometimes it's oh, that relates to me, or oh, that was nice, I know God gave that to me specifically for today. But a lot of times, even things that we don't want to read, we can take the list of names for granted, but yet we can earn and build memories and build our spiritual progress with God as well from the Bible. And I think that once we learn to understand how much we don't deserve, like God, like we don't deserve the Bible, we don't deserve anything, and yet God still gave us the Bible, so why are we not reading it, you know? And I just think that in order to enjoy the Word, to enjoy reading the Bible and wanting to pick it up and learn from it, being interested in those lists of names or whatever else in the Bible that you think is not interesting. But you can grow to think that it is interesting and important because God has given it a reason and a place in all times of our lives. Whenever we're going to need it is when we're going to learn to enjoy it.